Welcome to an FPL Gameweek 3 preview. They are back on the channel, but it's going to be slightly different. So I'll briefly talk about the kind of new structure behind it and thank you everyone who has given feedback. So what I'm going to be doing is going through every single fixture, giving my score prediction and also highlighting, in my opinion, who's going to be the highest scoring player and then also the kind of under the radar player that maybe not as many people are expecting to do well, but that I think could even end up being as the highest scoring player. And then what I'm going to do after that is showing the best team you can make for this particular game week. So of course this is game week 3. I'll be showing you, in my opinion, what you can do to have the best game week 3 team. And if you are free hitting, for example, you can always kind of refer to this and draw some ideas. But yeah, that's pretty much going to be the concept of this. And then after that, I'll be naming my top 5 captains in order and not even looking at my team. I'm just looking across every single fixture, every single player, and just giving my top 5 picks. So hopefully you all enjoy that. Remember, you can join the league. It's 886RGT. The links are in the description below and also the code. And follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Smash the like button of this video and subscribe if you're new. But enough of all that. Let's go through every single fixture. And we start off with Manchester City against Arsenal. The early kickoff on Saturday. And to be honest, as an Arsenal fan, I'm very pessimistic about this fixture, despite how good Arsenal were yesterday against West Bromwich Albion in the Carabao Cup. But very poor opposition, and it wasn't even their best team. They made 11 changes. Only see one result, and it's just really a question of how many goals City are going to score and by how much they're going to win by. And I'm going to go with 3-1 Manchester City, and I think Mahrez is going to be the standout player, whether it's going to be goals or assists. I just think he's going to be the main man, and everything's going to go through him. And in terms of kind of under the radar players, Cancelo is coming into the mix. I think if he starts, he has the chance of a clean sheet, and if not, an attacking return and some bonus points. So I really think Cancelo is another player. I think that right-hand side for Manchester City could be crucial in defeating Arsenal. And other than that, I think maybe a Laporte, if he starts, he can even get an attacking return or some clean sheet points. But yeah, I think Mahrez is going to be the standout in this fixture, and Manchester City will win. And moving on to the second fixture of the week, Aston Villa against Brentford. And this is a pretty interesting one. Of course, a lot of people still have Tony, but more people are kind of going away from him, and I completely understand that. And to be honest, I think Villa will win this game, but will they keep a clean sheet or not? I think they could maybe concede the odd goal, but I'm still going to back Aston Villa in this game. I'm going to go with 2-0. I think Danny Ings will be the highest scorer, and I think Martinez could be just, I wouldn't say under the radar, but he could be someone that just has an explosive score. So maybe saves a penalty, gets some bonus points, and I think the clean sheet is quite likely. So I'm going to go 2-0 Aston Villa, and I think Danny Ings and Martinez are two of the best scoring players for this week. And then for Brighton versus Everton, this is a tough one, and I think they're quite evenly matched in a way. I'm still going to back Everton slightly with a 2-1 victory. I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I don't see him having a really big score. I could be wrong about that, but I think he'll just get a goal, maybe some bonus points, and I think he could potentially score the winner, and that obviously boosts his case for the bonus points even more. And this might sound really weird, and you can slate me in the comments and all of that, but I think kind of an under the radar player, despite me not really backing Everton for the clean sheet, is Yerry Mina. Now, the reason why I say that is because Brighton have been struggling so much from set pieces, and I think Mina could actually be a big threat. Although, of course, Duffy has come into the team for Brighton. He's given a bit of aerial threat there, but I think Everton can cause some problems. And if Mina doesn't keep the clean sheet, I think he could maybe even score a goal himself or get an assist. And now for Newcastle against Southampton, this is a really tough game to call. It's one of the kind of fixtures I looked at, and it took me quite a few minutes to actually think about this one. But I'm going to go with 2-2. I don't trust any of their defences. I think their attacks are reasonably decent, and they have some good offensive players. And I think Callum Wilson and Adam Armstrong are the two who are going to stand out the most. So I think both of them, they'll probably score the goals and they will get the bonus points. So I would highlight both of them. As for Norwich against Leicester, funnily enough, I actually think Norwich could sneak a goal here, and of course they had a really big win in the Carabao Cup, just like Arsenal. However, I think Leicester are still going to win. I'm going to go 3-1 Leicester because they're away from home. I'm going to give Norwich a bit more credit in the bank, and Jamie Vardy is definitely the standout in this game. There's even Harvey Barnes and Iheanacho. And to be honest, it's kind of a conundrum who's going to start for Leicester. But with maybe Ayoze Perez out, it could be Barnes and Iheanacho starting in the same lineup as Jamie Vardy. And if that's the case, I fancy all of them to do well. But I think Iheanacho is probably going to be the under-the-radar player because he's got low ownership. Not many people have him with good reason because he doesn't play, really. He's on the bench most of the time, and we don't want bench players, especially at 7.5 million. However, I think Iheanacho will start this game, and I think he can do really well. And then West Ham against Crystal Palace, I think it's a simple win for the Hammers. 3-0, I think everyone who's getting Ben Rama in with good reason, I think he can do exceptionally well. Mikel Antonio, though, he is the standout for the captaincy, and I think he will be the highest scoring player in this match. But what I would say is that in terms of an under-the-radar player in this game, other than maybe Vladimir Soufal or Creswell, who could get an assist easily and some bonus and a clean sheet, I think Jared Bowen could actually be the kind of key man here. So he's got very good underlying stats, even better than Ben Rama's, but he just hasn't been getting the goals and assists. I think he's been very unlucky not to at least notch one goal contribution, but if you look at his performance against Leicester, very instrumental. So I think Bowen could be the main man here. He could even get double digits. He's very explosive sometimes. A bit like Fornals. I think Bowen is one to look out for in this fixture. And then kind of approaching the last game of Saturday, Liverpool against Chelsea. This is the one that I struggled with the most because they're both good teams. They're both in very good form. Both kept clean sheets in their first two games. So good defences, very good attacks. And the midfield is where I think it could be the difference in this game. However, I'm going to be going for a 1-1 draw. I just can't really call this game. It could go either way. And I think if there is a win, it will be very narrow, so a 2-1. But I'm going to go with 1-1. And a bit of a boring one, but I think Salah will get the goal for Liverpool, and I think he will be getting the majority of the bonus points. But in terms of other players to consider, I think Mason Mount, I think he could either score the goal like he did last year at Anfield, or he could actually just get the assist and create a lot of chances and get in and amongst the bonus points, potentially a clean sheet point too. But yeah, I think Mason Mount is one to look out for, and he's looking like really good value at 7.5 million. And now approaching the Sunday fixtures, Burnley against Leeds. Now this is a tough one, and I've kind of gone for an unorthodox score. It's not very common for someone to give these kind of predictions and scores for a game like this, but I'm actually going to go with 4-2 Leeds, and I don't know why, it's just kind of a gut feeling. I could be completely wrong about this. It could be much tighter than I expect, but Burnley and Leeds, I don't trust their defences right now, especially with Llorente out for Leeds. Otherwise, maybe they could keep a clean sheet more often. But yeah, I'm going to go with a 4-2 victory for Leeds. I think Bamford's going to be the main star. However, in terms of under-the-radar players, Jack Harrison, I think he could be the one who steals the limelight, maybe over the likes of Rafinha. So yeah, Harrison is one to look out for, in my opinion. And then Spurs against Watford, I think it's going to be a simple win, and I can really only see it going one way. I think I'm going to go with a 3-0 victory, but you know, wouldn't surprise me if it's also 2-0. And Harry Kane, I expect him to start. Of course, he recently confirmed that he's staying at Tottenham, and I think he's going to be the main man. If he's fully fit, he's going to start, and I think he could be probably the best captaincy option in the whole week, in my opinion. And in terms of other players to consider, of course, Heung-min Son's a bit of an obvious one, Dele Alli, but I'm just going to go with Reguilon. I think he's got the attacking potential, and I think a clean sheet is very likely against Watford. So I'm going to go with 3-0 Spurs. And for the last fixture of the week, Wolves against Manchester United. Man United have actually struggled against Wolves over the last few years, and I think Wolves could actually score their first goal of the season here. I still expect Man United to win this game though, and I think Bruno's going to be the main guy. Same with Greenwood. One of them, I would be very surprised if one of them wasn't the highest scoring player in this match. But in terms of other players to consider, the under-the-radar picks, I think Aaron Wan-Bissaka, I'm just not sure why, he could get an attack in return, maybe even the clean sheet. But I'm going to go with Aaron Wan-Bissaka. So that's kind of my picks, my predictions for Game Week 3. Let me know what yours are down in the comment section below. I'd be very intrigued to hear. And of course, I'll be talking to you a lot about it and replying to all of your comments. But now, let's move on to the best team you can make for Game Week 3. And here we are. This is, in my opinion, with the budget you have. Some people may not be able to reach it because of price changes and all of that. And of course, if that's the case, then you can maybe make an exception here or there. Maybe change someone to someone else who's 0.1, 0.2 million cheaper. But in goal, I think Martinez is the standout. There is also Lloris, who I also heavily back for a clean sheet. But I just think Martinez, if Villa win the game or even draw 0-0, he's just very likely to get full bonus points. So Martinez is a very easy choice. And then obviously just a 4 million keeper on the bench. I wouldn't obviously have two kind of expensive keepers there. As for the defense, Livramento is probably the pick of the bunch, around 4 million at the moment. Amati might not play because Vestergaard is actually already in training and he could make the game against Norwich. And then you look at Tsimikas, it's the same thing with Robertson coming back. Then, to be fair, there is Duffy, so if you can afford him, you can go Livramento to Duffy. That makes complete sense. However, Brighton are playing Everton, so it's not an easy game. It's a game in which I expect Everton to win and potentially score 2 goals, so I wouldn't be going for Duffy there. Livramento is just on the bench regardless. What I would be doing here is starting Diaz, Soufal and Reguilon, and I think Diaz is very likely to get the clean sheet. The reason why I've gone for him over Cancelo and Laporte, who I kind of tipped in my prediction of 3-1, is because I think Diaz is just more likely to start. With the other two, they're very good picks if they start. The problem is, are they actually going to? We just don't know. I think Diaz just offers that certainty, and that's why in terms of most of these kind of team of the week videos, I think I'd be opting for Diaz unless I kind of get a notion that Cancelo is going to be quite nailed. So yeah, Diaz is in there. You can always go for Cancelo. You can go for another defender like Stones or Laporte. You are kind of risking it though. And then Soufal, I think he's definitely, someone who can get an attack and return easily, some bonus points and a clean sheet. It's definitely all on the cards. The fixture is there. Crystal Palace have actually been one of the worst, if not the worst, offensive side at the moment. They haven't scored a goal, not even in the Carabao Cup. So yeah, things are looking pretty grim for Crystal Palace, and I think Soufal could be a great choice. And now I've got Thomas, and I am expecting Norwich to score a goal potentially, but just on your bench, 4.5 million, I think he's probably the pick of the bunch. In terms of the fixture, looking at the fixture specifically, obviously Leicester didn't look very good against West Ham, but Norwich are a different team, and Leicester could have Vestergaard back, so they could be a bit more resolute defensively. So Thomas is just there as a 4.5 million option, someone to consider. If you are free hitting, you could go for him. And then for the final spot in this team, and it's very weird for me to kind of go without any Chelsea or Liverpool defenders, but I'm going for Reguilon. And as I said before in my 3-0 prediction for Spurs, I think Reguilon could be one of the main players in that game with a clean sheet, assists, and even a goal potentially. So yeah, Reguilon is probably the pick of the bunch. If you can't afford him, you can always go to Davinson Sanchez or Eric Dyer, who can easily get bonus points. The problem with them is that they can get the occasional yellow card, and that hampers their chances of getting extra points. As for the midfield, this is probably a bit simpler, although there are other options as well, which kind of make this a difficult one. I think Brownhill's just there as a substitute. You can go with any 4.5 million midfielder of your choosing. If you kind of want someone a bit more expensive as your fifth midfielder, maybe around the 5.5 million mark, I definitely recommend Damari Gray, or even Mbeumo potentially, but in this week particular, I would go with Damari Gray. As for the rest of the midfield, Heung-min Son is definitely a standout. The problem with him is keep an eye on his fitness, and of course the press conferences will be very crucial when determining if you should get Son in or not. And of course, if you do have him, it's a bit of a tricky situation. I would expect him to start, but I could be completely wrong about that. And then Riyad Mahrez, I think he's going to do really well against Arsenal, and he's just definitely one of the standout options this week. I wouldn't really be considering him for the captaincy because maybe his ceiling won't be as high as a Harry Kane, a Son, even potentially a Bruno, but I think Mahrez can do exceptionally well. Greenwood covers Man United. And if you are going without Bruno, I think Greenwood is enough cover potentially for this fixture. Of course, long term, I wouldn't really recommend just going with Greenwood and no Bruno. And then Benrahma, a lot of people are getting him in. I got him in for my team. Check out my team selection video, which I posted the other day. I think Benrahma is definitely a fantastic pick. Of course, the underlying numbers, which is something I discussed before, are unsustainable, so expect a drop-off. He's not going to get double-digit returns every week, but I still think for the next 2 fixtures at least, he should be really good. Now, in terms of other players you can go for in midfield, there is Harvey Barnes. I know a lot of people have gotten rid of him, including myself. I still think if he starts, he can produce a massive haul, so consider Harvey Barnes. And Bruno Fernandes, if you want to go with Bruno Fernandes, what you could do is go for Bamford up front instead of Kane, and then instead of Mahrez, go for Bruno Fernandes when you're kind of building this sort of team. So I think Bruno is a bit too obvious, same with Salah for most weeks. So this is kind of a different team for you lot. But of course, if you really want Bruno Fernandes, which is completely understandable, you can just make those two changes as I said, Mahrez and Kane out, and get Bruno Fernandes and Bamford in, for example. And moving on to the front three, Harry Kane, in my opinion, is the standout captaincy option this week. I'll be kind of giving you my final top 5 ranking, but I think if Kane starts, he's good for maybe a very massive haul to announce his return at Spurs. And then Danny Ings, I think against Brentford is a decent fixture. I don't really see him scoring a massive amount of points, but I just think it's very unlikely that he'll blank, although of course it's still possible. And I think he's just got so much in his arsenal, and if El Ghazi isn't on the pitch, he's the first choice penalty taker. Of course he is second behind him, but that's just something else to consider as well with Danny Ings. And of course this could be the final week in which Ings features in most of our teams, because a lot of people will be moving him on to Dominic Calvert-Lewin in game week 4, so that's something else. I think he could maybe go off or go out with a bang. That's definitely possible. And then of course the main man at the moment, Mikel Antonio, the highest scoring FPL player, the highest XG, the most shots, just so many great underlying statistics, and I think Antonio is just a gem at the moment. And at 7.7 million, still a bargain, so if you haven't got him already, I would thoroughly recommend it. And just going without him is just, I don't know, at the moment it seems criminal. What I would say though is that when the Europa League comes into the mix, I think Mikel Antonio is far more likely that he's going to get injured, and there could be possible rotation if West Ham start to kind of focus more on the Europa League, if they kind of see an opportunity there to go really far in the competition. I think that's what could happen, but for the time being, Antonio is a must-have, and that is my final team. But of course, if you don't want to go without Bruno Fernandes, you can always get rid of Kane or someone else and fund that move. In terms of the top 5 captaincy shouts this week, I will go with number 5. I think Jamie Vardy is someone who you should thoroughly consider. Of course, he's not in this team at the moment, as you can see, but we're spoilt for choice, really. Of course, you can go for Bruno, who's not even in this team, Harry Kane, Heung-min Son, etc. So it's just really hard to fit Jamie Vardy in, but I still think he's one of the best captaincy shouts this week. He could even get a massive haul, and the thing with Vardy is he's so explosive. He can maybe get a lot of blanks, maybe 5 game weeks in a row, and then come up with 13 or 16 points out of nowhere, and he's just got so much in his arsenal. So I really think that Jamie Vardy is a great option this week, despite him not being in this best Game Week 3 team. And then number 4, I still think Bruno Fernandes. He's got the capability of doing really well against Wolves. It ultimately depends how Wolves set up. If they're going to be more offensive, like they have been in the first 2 game weeks, then that's just going to benefit Bruno and the rest of Manchester United attackers. If they sit deep, however, this could be where Bruno Fernandes struggles and maybe blanks yet again. So that's where it will be very interesting to see how Lager sets his team up. But I think that will be the kind of crucial factor in terms of who's going to be the best captaincy this week. Because if Wolves are open, Bruno could even be arguably the best captaincy shout this week. And at number 3, I'm going with Heung-min Son. The reason why maybe I'm not considering him for second or first is because he is an injury doubt at the moment. And also, if Harry Kane starts, he's going to be the focal point in attack for Spurs. So Heung-min Son, I wouldn't say he's secondary, but he's not going to be the main man, the talisman. So, his appeal is reduced slightly in a way. Then again, though, the combination between Son and Kane, it could also do really well this year. So that's something else to kind of look on the other side of the argument. And then at number 2, of course, it could be Benrahma. I'm going to go with Mikel Antonio. I think he's a bit more explosive, a bit more consistent, and he's just got so much that he can offer. I think his stats are more sustainable and reliable. With Benrahma, he's vastly overperformed his stats, so if there is a regression, do not be surprised by that. And yeah, he's just thoroughly overperformed them. With Benrahma, for example, his XG is just over 1, and he scored 2 goals, he's got 2 assists. And you compare it to Bowen, for example, who's got even higher expected assists, and he's not even registered one yet. So I think Benrahma is quite lucky in a way, or he's just been that clinical, and also just his other teammates like Antonio have been clinical. But I would really benefit or really suggest going for Antonio this week. I think if you don't have Kane or Son, I think Antonio is pretty much a no-brainer. It's between him and Bruno, really, and I probably would opt for Antonio in this moment in time. And then number 1, as I said before, I kind of spoiled it, but here we are. It is what it is. Harry Kane is number 1. If he starts, for me, he's going to be the highest scoring player this week. I think he's got the fixture. He's got the team, which is in relatively good form, and they haven't even been that impressive, Spurs. They've only won both games by 1 goal, but that's just enough to win it. And with Harry Kane now added to the mix, I think Spurs are capable of scoring 2 or 3. It would be interesting to see how he fits into Nuno's system. We haven't seen that yet. But I think there are positive signs, and Harry Kane should still be one of the highest scoring players this year. He's going to be fighting for that golden boot, and because he's staying at Spurs, he's going to be fully committed. He's not really going to be thinking about other things, and I think goals will be the main target, and he's going to be doing the business once again. So if he scores a brace or a hat-trick, do not be surprised at all. Well, that's it. So that's my predictions for every single game, the kind of main players from each fixture, and also the best Game Week 3 team you can make, alongside with the top 5 captaincy shouts. Let me know what you think of all of those that I suggested down in the comment section below, and what you think of this new video type and the format. And if you enjoyed this video, smash the like button and subscribe for new. It really helps out the channel, and share this video around with people who love FPL, UCL fantasy, and football in general. I'll be making more UCL fantasy videos very soon because the draw's coming out and all of that, so stay tuned for that. And of course, FPL, more videos are coming, previews, even rate your team videos, team selections, live streams including deadline streams and reaction streams. It's all coming to the channel, so really appreciate all the support, and good luck with Game Week 3 and good luck with the rest of the season, and I'll see you next time.